we don't know what we would have done in that situation that he was in. But like, if that's how he got out, his pent up energy was fighting people in a video, like in like a separate kind of virtual world.
Hey everybody, and you're locked into another episode of the Emily podcast. My name is Josh, and we're enjoying the week. Um, so a couple of updates here. Our dancing journey is it's come to a close, and nobody is more upset about that than Rebecca.
I'm so sad. No, it was really fun to do our dancing stuff, and then I really enjoyed it. But I am glad that we are coming to an end and that we are not paying more money towards that. It was good for a time, and now we're done. Not that we'll stop dancing completely, but
yeah, well, we'll still go to the parties and we have some group lessons. But they you have to be firm. They try very hard to.
They really did. They were like, "Oh, well, we can work with you this way. What if you did this per month?" And we were like, "No, we're still not going to do it.
No.
Sorry."
But yeah, love our instructor. She's great and it's good.
Mhm.
But I'm really excited about this episode because this is the first time we are having a family member on the show with us today.
Yes.
And she has many accolades. Um, she's a teacher. She is an opera singer, and we are so glad to have your sister, my sister-in-law, Julia Damore.
Yes. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be on the show.
Yeah, and you'll notice so I'm sorry, Julie. I'm just not going to change to Julia.
That's fine.
I grew up with calling Julie, and then she went off to college and was like, "No, I am henceforth known as Julia." I was like, "Okay."
And I'm really glad because it goes with my last name. I got married, and so Julia Damore. I don't know.
It just has a pretty ring. It does.
And Julie, how many years have you been teaching? Because you teach at
Lipscomb. Yes, I
Lipscomb,
teach
yes.
at Lipscomb University as a voice teacher. And I've been teaching there. I haven't been teaching there super long, but this is my, I think, second year. But I taught at another university, Tennessee State University, before that. And so I think total it's like 3 or 4 years. So not very long. I'm still a new teacher, but I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy getting to interact with voice students and helping them learn and grow in their talents. So yeah.
All right, fantastic. Well, we've got some interview questions for you just to have our audience get to know you a little bit better. So, Rebecca, you're going to conduct that part?
Yes, hopefully I will be able to speak for the rest of the podcast because I just took a sip of my tea, which is obviously still extremely hot, and I burned my whole mouth. It's kind of numb at this point.
Oh
Not
man,
great.
that's
Not great.
the worst. I hate it when it happens.
I know. So first off, Julie, obviously we both know your story. I definitely am very acquainted with how you grew up, but tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you grow up? What's your background? All of that. Yeah. Who are you?
Okay. Who am I? Well, I don't know. That's such an open-ended question. Yeah, I guess I've been singing for a really long time, like since I was little. My mom or our mom would always tell the story about hi, shout out to mom. Um, but she would always tell the story about how when I was 2, we went into the doctor's office and they would ask if I was speaking in like full sentences because what I was like 2 or 3 or something. And she laughed at them, not at them. She laughed and she said, "Oh, she's definitely speaking in sentences." And she said, "Why don't you sing the theme song for Winnie the Pooh?" And so I did. And apparently they were all amazed or whatever. So anyway, I've been singing for a long time. And yeah, I started doing like musicals in middle school with a company called Bravo Creative Arts Center. I don't know if they're still called Bravo Creative Arts Center, but they are still around and they are still making productions for children's theater. They're wonderful. But that's kind of where I got plugged in and started loving music and singing even more. And from there, it just kind of developed into high school. I did high school shows, and choir was so important. And then I got to do my degree at, I started at Lipscomb University, and then I transferred to Belmont University, where I ended up getting my commercial music degree. And then I decided I didn't want to do commercial music as much as I really enjoy doing classical music. So I then got my master's in vocal performance at Austin Peay State University. And I got to work with some really great professors there, one of which Dr. Sharon Mabry. She's amazing. And then, yeah, from there, just kind of kept going in my career. That was a lot about my career. But overall, in general, growing up was wonderful. It was a really good environment. I don't know what else to say about it, but if you have any specific questions, I can do that.
Yeah, I would add to that it was a very creative upbringing, I guess, like
Very
because our
musical.
mom, yeah,
Yeah.
loved music, love arts in general,
Mhm.
and that was such a huge part of how we grew up and how we were even interested in the arts in general.
Definitely.
So it was a big part. I remember growing up, you like basically taught yourself how to sing with Phantom of the Opera. And every
Love
time you
that
would,
show. Yes.
I know, every time you would get in the shower, you'd be singing Phantom of the Opera and
Yes.
like Christine's part. It was so nice. It was really
That's
good.
very true. The shower is the best place to sing, by the way, if anyone's interested. And the car. There
Car's
it's
great.
just like the best place. I also remember us listen or we would watch a lot of movies growing up. That was like the thing that we did, which probably has influenced you, especially on this podcast. Um, but yeah, we were real like we loved watching movies, and every snow day we would watch Ice Age. And, it was like the thing to do. We would make like snow cream and watch Ice Age and have a snow day, and it was great.
Yeah, definitely was. It was the best. Ice Age and then the movie Snow Day.
Yes.
That was a
Oh,
good one too.
great movie. I always wish we had that much snow in Tennessee,
I
but
know.
we
Would
never
make
will.
tunnels. Ah, so
I know.
cool. So cool. So you kind of answered this question a little bit already, um, but tell us a little bit about your music performance. What have you been doing recently as far as music performance?
Yeah, so recently, my most recent thing was I got to sing with Andrea Pagelli, which was really cool. He came to Nashville, and it was like a group of 60 people got together, and we were able to sing with him at Bridgestone, which was really cool, super special. Um, and then upcoming, I have a performance with the Nashville Symphony. We're doing a work called Creation by Haydn. And I am very excited to be one of the soloists. I'm going to be playing Eve. So this is an oratorio, so it's on the classical kind of early music side. And yeah, I'm really excited to that. I've never actually gotten to sing a solo in front of a symphony, so it kind of feels like a dream come true. So I'm so excited to do that. But those are just like the two most recent things that I did and then upcoming.
Yeah, you've also done, I think last Easter, you were in Handel's Messiah. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we did Handel's
Yeah.
Messiah. And that was with the Nashville Symphony Chorus and Orchestra. And that was really fun. Yeah, that was awesome. I
Yeah,
also
we
did
had
a Final Fantasy concert. So that was really cool. The best crowd ever. We were at the Skirmerhorn, and they were just so much fun. They were yelling and screaming, and it was one of those events where they show pictures of the movie or like a video game, and the symphony will play with the picture on the screen. So it's like really immersive experience, and it was so much fun. I had such a great time. I will do that every year if I can.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, with everything that you've done, I mean, getting all these accolades, these opportunities to sing at very distinguished places and with distinguished, public figures, very well done.
I can't believe it. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, wow, how did this even happen? But it's a God thing, you know. Sometimes it
Oh
just
yes,
comes up,
certainly.
and it's, yeah, really special.
It is. And I gotta say, as your big sister, Julie, I am so proud of you. And Rachel, honestly, our other sister.
Yes. Oh my,
Um, both of you guys are just incredible and so accomplished. And I'm just so proud of both of you.
that's really sweet. Thank you.
So you mentioned that you decided to move away from more commercial music and go
Mhm.
towards more classical music. What led you to making that distinction there? Why did you choose that direction?
Yeah, so I decided to I still like to be involved in both because I think there's such important aspects to commercial and classical. And I think part of deciding where to plug yourself in has a lot to do with your own voice and making sure that you understand how you actually sound and what you would fit best at and what you could actually like make money doing. And so for me, with commercial music, it was so much fun to sing. It's a totally different environment, different technical skills are involved vocally. And so I had such a great time studying it. And I realized that my voice didn't fit commercial as well as it did classical. And after studying in my master's, I guess I discovered that I really enjoyed studying more of the academic side of classical music. And I also enjoyed singing classical music and felt like I was better at doing that than I was at commercial. Um, I think commercial music is a great path, and I always encourage my students. I have a lot of commercial students, and they are so good at what they do, and they definitely have found their niche, and they're really amazing at it. So I always try to view, I'm not a stickler, I should say. I like to think of both genres as super important, and everyone has their own path that they can take. And so for me, my path ended up being classical. Now I will sing commercial at church, and I enjoy doing that at church. And I love getting my belt out. You know, it's really fun to do sometimes. Um, but yeah, I just found that classical was a great realm for me, and I've been having some success with it. So I'm really glad I chose that path. I think that has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I love what you said too about this being a God thing. We talked with someone last week, I think, who she's an author. We talked about with Bungo Stray Dogs is what we talked about the show.
Mhm.
Um, she is like 21, I think, and she's an author. She's written 23 books at this point, and
Wow.
she's 21. I was like, dang. And she's like, honestly, God's called me to this. This is what I'm called to. And I was like, well done. And so I think the same thing is true for you. Like this has definitely been your calling, what God's called you to, and He's
Absolutely
blessed
agree.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I've had a lot of blessings and a lot of doors open when I have just like moved on this path. And also people who have encouraged me, like mentors who have meant so much. And man, it's so important to have someone who's in your corner and who can cheer you on, to support you. And obviously, family and my husband, you know, all of that is so important to help you strive for the things that you want to do, your dreams. And I'm really, really glad that I have had people like that in my life, because otherwise, I don't know how far I would actually have gotten, or would go. So, Yeah.
Yeah, so many people don't have that, you
Yeah.
know, they don't have that support system, and yeah, we're so lucky. So lucky that we do,
Definitely.
for sure. Um, so okay, I'm looking at our questions here that we have for you. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I guess we could talk about it in a different way. Um, do you have a unique style or personality to your voice when you're performing? Um, or is that more dictated by the piece that you are doing? Like, do you get to add your own flair to it?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I love that.
Kudos to
Um,
Josh.
so I would say in a lot of the things that I do with on the like classical side, you have a certain category. It's called a fach, and it's basically how you have a category of voice. And so recently, like I was cast in an opera, I was in Carmen, and I was cast in the role Frasquita. And Frasquita's voice is typically a little bit lighter than, say, a full like lyric soprano voice. That would be a bit more rounded and just like a little bit bigger in terms of timbre. And my timbre, it's not a small timbre, but it's definitely lighter, I would say, than like a full lyric. So with that in mind, I guess I could technically say my classification might fall under lyric coloratura soprano, which that just means I can sing a lot of notes quickly and it doesn't tire me out. So if I wanted to do like a bunch of runs or something like that, I could do that and not that wouldn't bother me. Whereas if you have like a bigger, heavier voice, it might be more difficult to do lots of notes. It's like if you're carrying a heavy backpack up a mountain, um, that would be harder than if you had a lighter pack. So, kind of thinking of the voice like that. So, I'd say for my classification, early music is really good for me because there's more coloratura passages in them. So, like the creation um, event that's happening very soon, there's some coloratura aspects to it. And so it fits really well in my voice. It doesn't tire me out and it fits my timbre of my voice. So that's like a short way of answering that question, I guess. But yeah, it's something usually if you're going to add in something, an extra flair, like you were saying, there might be like a grace note or something or another option to add more notes if you were just going to do it straight. But in classical music, you pretty much try to do what's written on the page. And so for me, that is what I do. So I do try to stick with what's on the page. Now, if I'm going to church or if I was doing a commercial album, then that would be totally different. I could add whatever I wanted to. If I wanted to add like a breathy tone, if I wanted to add different nuances in a different way in terms of filters, like a breathiness tone or a really driven tone or a belting tone, I could have a lot more options to go from there. But usually I'm on the classical side, so I usually do what's written on the page. And yeah.
Nice. So, building off of that, what are some of your favorite artists or influencers? Who influences you as a performer and as a person in general?
Yeah, so I guess artist wise, I am so excited because I actually got to sing with one of them. She came with Andrea Bocelli on his tour. Her name's Nadine Sierra, and she is a wonderful soprano. And she sang such a beautiful version of an aria called Vici d'Arte, and it was so beautiful. She killed it. So she's one of them. I follow her on Instagram. Um, but I would say another one might be Renee Fleming. She's really, really talented. She's not quite my same Fach, but she's really, really good. She has great control. And I listen to her a lot for influence. And yeah, those are off the top of my head. But in terms of like, what was the other question? A mentor?
just like in general, life in general, not necessarily focused
Oh, okay.
specifically to music.
Oh man. Okay, life in general. Man. I mean, Dr. Mabry, who was my teacher in my graduate degree, she was a huge influence on me just as a person and as a singer, but she's one of those people who encouraged me a lot and just really got me to where I am right now. Like I really can say that she was that important. Um, and I think I would also say, um, yeah, I would mainly say her in terms of like career stuff, just because she has such grace with how she handles being a teacher. She's retired now, but um, I'm so lucky that I got to study under her. But she was a wonderful teacher, really like won a bunch of awards for being so good at it. And so I do aspire to be more like her in my teaching, pedagogy, and uh, just how I treat my students. So yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Um, it's so fun, honestly, asking you these questions because, like, we talk so much, and yet some of these questions are like, wow, I've never really asked you these types of questions. So getting to hear your answers is really cool,
Yeah.
particularly when you went into like technical details. I was like, wow, I mean, I knew you knew a lot, but that's a lot.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Julie, I mean, with the type of craft that you have and just all the successes that you've kind of, I guess the word would be attained, it's just, I mean, and again, 29, most people don't reach feats like that till way later in life.
Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah, I like I said, I do feel really I feel like this is the good path for me and I've had a lot of really cool opportunities that just people who believed in me along the way. So it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, and all of that goes directly into what we're talking about today, too,
For sure.
for our movie. We're actually doing a movie today, a movie called Belle, and it came out in theaters. When was that, Josh?
I want to say it was
Like 2
20,
years ago?
20,
No,
2021?
21.
I
Yeah.
think so.
was
Yeah.
it? Okay, yeah, so a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And now, for those of you listening and watching, it is not Beauty and the Beast. Again, it has a couple nods to it, but that's not the overall theme of it. We'll put the picture here in a moment, but as you can see from the poster, it's got a different feel. This movie takes place primarily in a social media atmosphere called U, just the letter U. And this is kind of our overall theme, aside from music, is the positives and negatives of the online world. Again, it's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of it is getting so complex, even with Meta, because what their full end goal is to have there just be in a virtual world, like fully immersive. Um, think of Sword Art Online, that type of thing. So you'll be strapped in, and you can just live. You can. It's a form of escapism, basically.
In a way, you can create a whole life in there,
I mean,
but
you can,
it
yeah.
definitely there's a lot of escapism going on, I think.
Yeah, I'd say for the main character too, like her using it as a way to just use another way to be able to sing because of everything that happened and in her life, which I'm sure we'll get into. Don't want to spoil it. But she using it as like a way to express herself. And I guess that's a positive way of viewing it for her.
Right.
Yeah.
And Julie, you had not seen this previously. This first time we showed it to you, like I think about, gosh, it was earlier last year, maybe. Yeah,
Was it? Yeah, I guess it was.
As at
or
some
later
point
last year. Yeah.
For me, it was like November, October.
I think so.
I think it was more like, yeah, November.
Yeah.
So a couple
Okay.
months ago.
Yeah,
So
it
what?
was my first time.
Yeah, what was your general first thoughts on it?
I thought it was really interesting because when I saw the name Belle, I was like Beauty and the Beast. Is that where we're going? And like it kind of was. And that was kind of surprising to me because there were elements of Beauty and the Beast that came out in the storyline, but it was totally different. Like it was not the storyline of Beauty and the Beast, but there was a beast and there was a castle and there were magical beings. So there was a lot of really interesting parallels there. But I did not expect where it was going to go, the storyline. It kept me guessing the whole time. But I really enjoyed it. I had a great time watching it. And I thought that the music was really interesting too. It had a lot of like rhythmic aspects to it, especially that first song. It wasn't rap, but it was like spoken, conversational, and really interesting. But it was more on like the pop spectrum. So it really tied in everything together. And her voice was amazing. I loved the timbre of her voice, the main character. And I actually remember Rebecca, like, you have to listen to this song before I had seen the movie. And
Oh
it was
yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're referring to Gale of Psalms or Sale of Psalms.
Is it that one?
I think so.
I
Okay.
think I think it was that one. It was the one where it was like so much emotion involved.
Is that
Like
the last
I
song?
can sing
The last
again.
song is really emotional.
They're
Yeah.
all good. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have our main character, Zuzu, who her backstory is pretty tragic. It goes along with the lines of, for those of you who haven't seen it, again, spoilers are ahead. Going with the traditional type of, I guess, Disney-esque vibe is she doesn't have a mom. Unfortunately, through a tragic event, the mom is no longer present, and the dad isn't really present either. Like we see him.
I think it's
Yeah.
more that she's pushed him
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's
You're
more
right.
of what it is. Like
Mhm.
he makes
Mhm.
gestures to like, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" And she freaks out. She like turns around and runs away. And
Yeah.
it's like it was really sad.
And a big part of her is her singing. She enjoys it, but she also relates that to her mother, who is no longer present. That's why she doesn't sing out in public anymore. And to the point of like being like physically sick if she tries to out loud. But then she learns about this new virtual app, this world called You. And it was very interesting to hear like the robotic voice that comes from the app. It's like, hey, this is you. This is the alternative. This is a new life. Become the real you. And I want to open up a discussion on, the real you, the alternative versions of ourselves, because online we usually post what people want to see, the highlights, the glamour. You know, I could post that I'm on a yacht one day. I'm not rich, but that's that's the image that I want to present to to others who may not know me. Rebecca, I know you are not a big social media user for various reasons. Can you go ahead and comment a bit more?
As to why I don't really use social media.
Yes.
So I used to use social media a lot. And I found that I became addicted to the comments and the likes. And I would like open up the app like once a minute almost. And at some point, just to see if anybody had commented. And when they commented or liked it, that was love to me.
Yeah, because it gives you that dopamine.
Yeah, exactly. And at some point, I was just like, this is not good for me. I just need to be off of it. And so that's what I did. I don't even have the apps. Occasionally I'll go on to Instagram, but I never really go on Facebook. If I do, honestly, it's to look up candidates for work to see what's their profile like. we found some interesting things from candidates. But I mean, other than that, I don't really go on social media. And yeah, it's because of that addictive quality that social media has. And I have a really hard time accepting myself for who I am. And I don't want, I know that my identity comes from Christ and from the people around me, and that like that's what's real, that's what matters. And so I just I did yeah, got rid of it. Got rid of social media. That's why I don't do it anymore.
And Julie, kind of passing the baton on to you, what is your whole thought process on the alternative you, the you universe, and presenting a version of yourself that may not be the true you?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to try and do that. I definitely know that when I post on social media, I want it to be seen in a positive light. And like you said, posting all the best parts of your life, definitely I do that. And I also follow Rebecca into what you were talking about with putting your identity in it. It is like a whole other identity, and realizing that that's not real, and other people who have it, it's not real for them either. And I think for me it was hard comparing myself with other people on social media, and wanting to live up to the identity, like they were having a certain identity, I wanted to live up and be similar to them. And yeah, not comparing myself against other people is a really hard thing that I struggle with. So yeah, having like that other identity, it's tempting because
Oh, yeah.
it's nice to think that you could have another person. Like everyone I feel like has feels like they have different sides of themselves. At least I know that I feel like I want different sides of myself to be seen. And maybe if I had another you world, maybe I could be someone different there, or I could be something better. And um, I think social media and or just like the internet, you have the opportunity and the place to possibly do that without really being caught, because you could have an avatar, you could not have, you could use a different username, and yeah, you could just make up a whole new life if you wanted to. And that would be really tempting, I think. And there are, I'm sure, very positive things. Like I said earlier, I think with this main character, in a way, she could use it in a positive way to help get over her trauma and use it to help her find her voice again. But just like with anything in life, having a balance is probably important in finding the good and the bad. And so, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and speaking of trauma, she starts off and she can't sing because of a trauma. How does that affect your voice? Do you have any insight, Julie, into how that might affect your voice?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways actually that it can affect your voice. I sat in on a conference this summer about trauma and the voice, um, and it was fascinating. But basically, there are a lot of singing is psychological. So if you're really nervous, or if you have stage fright, you might have a reaction to that, and that your voice tightens up, like your actual vocal cords will become tight, and you'll have tension in your body. And not only that, but it affects your memory and how you might remember words, like that anxiety that comes up, or adrenaline. It can affect the way that you remember the words, or it might just become a fight or flight or freeze situation. And so it's easy to go into that. But I would say with the psychological aspect, that's a huge part of your voice. And if you're terrified or something, you have a trauma response, like let's say let's say I have a student who can't see the color red, because the color red would trigger a memory for them of something that was traumatic. and that would cause our lesson to be less productive, and also maybe for them to have a mentally hard day in terms of having mental health. And so trying to accommodate them and not wear the color red or keep red out of their space would be really important. But it definitely affects the voice and how it works. But a lot of it could just be like a shutdown emotion where you might just shut down and you wouldn't be able to sing just because you were in that fight, flight, freeze kind of part of that moment.
Yeah. And we definitely see a lot of that with Zuzu. Is that what's her name?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, I think that's right. Yeah, I mean, even to the point of becoming physically sick. And it was, oh man, it was heartbreaking to see her react that way for something that clearly she loved doing with her mom.
Right.
And she wrote, oh my gosh, it was like tons and tons of sheet music of songs that she wrote, which ended up being able to sing them in the alternate U is the name of the thing. But yeah, so she was able to actually do that, which is cool.
Right. And that's a really cool coping mechanism too. I'm sure that's, now this part I don't know, but I'm sure that having some type of coping mechanism like that would help a victim of trauma come out of their shell, like having some type of therapy to help you do that. So maybe for you, that was her type of therapy, was like some type of border to help her get over the fear of the trauma and that response that she would have of being sick. Maybe that was a way that helped her. It was like a crutch or a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I definitely think it was, because as we move through the movie, you
Mm-hmm.
see towards the end when they're trying to help those kids, and her friend, he was like, Zuzu, you got to do it. He was so funny. He was like, Zuzu, you got to sing. Zuzu, do it. And you're
He's
like,
such an
okay, guys.
interesting, like, love interest. I'm like, are you like into her? Like, I
Yeah.
think you
Right.
are, but you're being kind of weird
Right.
about
Like,
it.
what's happening? I don't
He's like,
know.
I will protect you in the hallway, and then
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shinobu is like the love interest. So, because he was the one who like grabbed her hand like as a
Mhm.
child, and
Yeah.
so he's been that protector, um, you know, all throughout that time. Um, so it's very interesting to see like their dynamic and their relationship.
Yeah. And
Uh,
he's the
Yeah.
popular boy.
yes.
Yes.
That was
My
interesting to see.
biggest problem with him is that at the very end, he let her go to a known abuser's house alone. Um,
Oh yeah.
and like, not that he let her, but like it was her own personal decision. But like, also, maybe someone should go with her.
Agreed. Agreed. They're definitely buddy system. I
Yeah,
mean,
buddy system, man. Like,
somebody go with her. She definitely needed somebody. If it wasn't him, maybe not her friend, the girl.
yeah, maybe not
She
her.
she was I'm not sure she was a great
Yeah.
influence.
Yeah,
She was a little crazy.
A
well,
little
she was
nuts.
like Zuzu's like, social media manager in a way,
Yeah.
and trying to like
That's
manage
true.
all, her songs popularity, people reaching
Mhm.
out, who's the real Belle and all this. And that's the main plot is Zuzu trying to find her voice again and be able to sing again, and to enjoy life. And then we have the subplot with these kids that are being abused by their dad. Um,
That's the big spoiler,
yeah,
by the
yeah,
way.
the big
So
spoiler.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. But it does bring it's a difficult subject to tackle, especially in an animated movie. But I
Yeah, in
felt
a
it was,
movie, not like
yes,
a TV series. That was a
right.
lot to pack into one
Yeah.
movie.
Oh
It
yeah,
is.
absolutely. But I felt it was done and it was handled really well. Um, but yeah, definitely agree with both you and Julie. Um, buddy system, because you're going, into a situation like you're a kid, they're kids.
Right. We're
Yeah.
all kids here, man. Like, we need an adult, maybe. Ask your dad.
Yeah, someone. It's and it's what's crazy is that like they literally watched the dad abuse one of the little kids. Like,
Yeah.
and you just went on your own? Oh
Yeah.
my
And
goodness.
then he just like smacked the heck out of her. And you're like,
There's just a
what
lot
did
of
you
wrong here.
expect? Yeah. Like, what's going on? Also, in real life, I feel like, and this is sad, but I don't feel like he would leave. Um, like, because I know
Oh,
that she stood in front of the kids at the very end to like protect them. And then he ended up feeling bad and sorry. And then he walked away. But I mean, sadly,
Yeah,
that's not the story a lot of times.
yeah. Usually, that outcome it would be very rare for
Yeah.
that to happen. Um,
yeah. It's and one of the things too that while we're talking about the abusive situation, what was so sad was the kids, particularly the older boy who turned out to be the beast in
Right.
Alternative You. He was
yes.
the beast with all the bruises on his back. They were from protecting his little brother being beaten. And when they finally found out the identity of these kids, one of the things that he kept saying over again and over was, you know, I want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help you. Basically, no one ever does anything. Nothing ever actually helps. It just gets worse.
Mhm.
And man, so many situations are like that. And why do adults not take kids more seriously? In general, that's true, I think. Like, why do, why? It doesn't, I don't know. Kids are so really smart,
Mhm.
and they understand far more than adults give them credit. I do believe that.
Definitely. And respecting their no's and understanding that when they're
Yeah.
communicating something to you that that's I don't have any children right now, but I'm sure that having a son or daughter, like when they're talking to you and telling you something's wrong, like hopefully you would be able to actually hear them and not just blow it off. But yeah, for sure, they know something's up. They're very smart, and they're just yeah, that's good.
Hmm. Yeah, and how sad that is, though, that was allowed to happen continually.
Hmm. Yeah,
And also finding the kids and where they were, that was
Yeah.
such like a
It,
what is
I,
it? NCIS?
yeah.
Is it was it the Zoom thing?
We have the zoom and the
Oh yeah,
enhancing of the
enhance,
image.
enhance. You're like, no, that
No,
is
you
not
can't
how
do that.
that works.
No.
no way.
But they had to find him somehow, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to the boy's character who is the Beast. Again, that's the other nod to the classic fairy tale. Um, he's like the like public enemy number one in the U universe, and he's like causing destruction and all this trouble, and it's because he's been hurt and he is hurting.
Mm.
A misunderstood monster, I guess, would be kind of like what we would label that as. But I mean, true nature, not a monster, just again somebody needing help.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Do we know what he did to cause everyone to hate
Yeah.
him?
Like the
he,
police were after
well,
him.
Yeah.
yeah, like so there was like mention of like fights in the universe or something. Like he took on all these people and like just like destroyed them basically, from what I recall.
Interesting. Well, I mean, who did he just lash out or did they provoke him because he looks like a beast or like I would want
I
to
don't
know
know
more
if that was
information about that.
explained. Yeah. Like
I don't think it was.
I
Yeah.
think he was like a part of it seemed like a yeah, like a fighting ring or something, like you were saying, like where he like signed up to fight people and then he kept winning and they were all upset at him because he was so good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Got
I
it.
think you're
so
right. Yeah.
then eventually I think they all got like their panties in a wad or something.
Mhm.
And they were like gonna come after him because he was winning too often and they didn't like that he was so strong or something.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
interesting to see how self-serving so many of the people in this universe were. It's like it was so interesting to see the alternative you truly was supposed to be who you really are, because people feel like they
Mhm.
don't have to hide. They can just do whatever they want and they won't get in trouble on the other end. Um, and then, yeah, it was so many things that people were trying to hide, like that. The old lady with the glasses, she was a little
Oh
baby
yeah.
in in the alternate universe,
Right.
and that's because she tried to act all innocent, but she was really quite a snake.
Yeah.
um, and then there were other people. Oh, when they were investigating who had the bruises, was like, could
Mhm.
he be the beast because it's an artist or whatever? And then it was
Yeah.
like, no, it's his girlfriend's car wreck or something, but that turned out to be false too, or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know. It was crazy. But like all these people who um, came out and they were honest with everyone.
Mhm.
Um, I thought that was just really interesting to see what people were truly like and how they treat the unknown, particularly with the beast.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
think we do that every day, every day.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. And even with the beast, and like, I really liked what you were saying, Josh, about him being like hurt. And so he was responding from a place of
Yeah.
hurt. And like, yeah, I mean, like, if we don't know what we would have done in that situation that he was in, but like, if that's how he got out, his pent up energy was doing fighting people in a video, like in like a separate kind of virtual world. That seems like, understandable. um, but I mean, it does make sense. Like, hurt people do hurt people. And that's a saying for a reason, because it's easy to, when you feel really sad and hurt, to want to express and take it out on someone else, or, whatever. And oftentimes that's how the cycle can continue. But, for him, he was reacting out of a place of probably fear and sadness and hurt and pain and all sorts of things. And it was a reaction, it seems like, against.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Certainly.
and I think that's why, you know, I think that's why Jesus talked so much about love and grace and forgiveness, is because we never really know what's going on in someone's life. This whole like
Mhm.
love your enemies um, thing, is you don't know why they're lashing out, why they're hurting you, and maybe they just need somebody to love them.
Mhm.
And as hard as that is, it's incredibly difficult. um, but I think that's a big piece of why it's talked about so much.
Yeah. And loving, it's an interesting, this might be controversial, but like, loving someone doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a relationship with them. At least when I think about the boys and their father, like, if I feel like a loving relationship for them might just be letting the hate that they may feel toward him die, and maybe having a separate relationship with him, not being around him, but for them growing and having acceptance, or giving themselves permission to feel whatever they need to feel, like, without having bitterness toward their father. I think that would be the best definition of love in that moment, and not necessarily expecting them to actively pursue a relationship with someone. Um, but it's still loving, like you were saying, like with Jesus, and relying on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think God's definition is staying with an abuser
Yeah,
of
I don't
love. I don't
either.
think his definition of love is staying with an abuser,
For sure.
whatever abuse that is. Um, you can separate yourself from that, and it is still loving. Like, listen, I love
Yes,
you, but you are continuing to hurt me, and I have to take care of myself and love myself
absolutely.
too. And so we need to be apart for a while.
Definitely.
Not that you completely break off that relationship. Maybe it just looks a little different. Who knows? Yeah.
Totally.
Such a
Yeah.
good point, Julie.
And going back to the whole social media part for just a moment, when people are um, negative comments and the negativity of online presence, even like her mom's tragedy, people were just like downright mean about it.
Yeah.
Um, like it's like, oh yeah, that's what you get for trying to be a hero and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
And then again, the negative comments from the um, universe and about Belle and all that. It reminds me of Proverbs 18:2, which is fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinion, which is very
Yes.
accurate for a lot of social media. You see a post and that's garnered a lot of popularity, and you click on comments to, you know, for the drop down, and either the third or fourth one down is just always negative. It's always
Yeah.
criticizing something because I have an opinion. I must express it. I cannot not express it.
Oh gosh, I know. That's why I don't comment on anything like
Yeah.
social media wise. Like it's not worth it. It just isn't.
It goes to the old saying. It's like, hey, keep your opinions to yourself. And apparently, in today's world, we just can't.
It's
Yeah, and it's
impossible.
like I guess it's like you can with the social media area, it's like there's no room to have another opinion. So it's like I have another opinion than you, so I'm now going to personally attack you, instead of being like, you know what, you have a different opinion. I hear you, and that's okay. Like we can live in this tension, and I don't have to personally attack you or make a judgment on you as a person. Like even what you were saying about what they were saying about her mom, like how could, well, that's what you get for doing all this. It's like a judgment upon somebody instead of trying to view them as another person, another flawed human who is stating whatever, something happened to them, and seeing them in a human way instead of, oh, well, then you're a terrible piece of crap. Like, I'm now judging your character based off of your opinion instead of just living in the tension and recognizing that we can all be different.
As you said earlier, this is a movie that we didn't really know where it was going to go, and I like movies that are like not predictable.
Yeah,
Much of the Western cinema is seen as okay. There's plot A, plot B, subplot, and we all know the story. Again, rom coms, adventure movies, crime, true crime, all that. But what this film did, they did it in such a way that it kept you on your toes a bit.
it did. Yeah, it really did. And like when the Beast came in, his character, I was really confused. I was like, wait, why? I didn't expect there to actually be a beast. And then I didn't expect, I kind of thought, maybe they'd fall in love, like you were saying, Rebecca, because that's the story that I know. But then it turned out he was a boy, and it was just like, just had no idea where that was going. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah, it showed a different kind of love, which I
Yeah,
appreciate. It was more of like a, I care about you. I want to be around you. I want, to take care of you, help you in some way.
right.
And that is what he needed
Yeah,
desperately. Both of the kids.
for sure.
Wonderful. So kind of like wrapping up thoughts here with the movie Bell, we would definitely recommend it. It's certainly worth a once watch, if not a twice watch. At the time this recording it is available on HBO Max. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, bunch of ways that you can watch this. Or if you're true old school physical media, it is out on Blu-ray and DVD.
Didn't you buy this on DVD, Josh? Or no?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I tried to. I mean, I stopped buying DVDs once, you know, downloading media became a thing. Um,
Except for a couple of
yeah,
things,
so for a
like
couple of like you can only
Your
get
Voice,
this.
right? Or Your Name.
Yeah, yeah.
Your
So
Name, oh, such a good movie.
it is a good
Yeah.
movie. Um, but yeah, other than that, I haven't bought like much. Like not in the CDs. I haven't bought a CD like in 10 years maybe. But Julie, we have so much enjoyed having you on the show today and your insight into this movie. If people want to follow you, keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Julia Damore Music. You can also find me on Facebook, just Julia Damore. And I'm still working on my website. It was down for a little bit, but I need to update it. So that will be juliadamore.com whenever I actually get it back up.
Perfect. And do you have any like performances coming up that you'd like to share about?
Yes, so the one that's coming up is in March 5th, and it is at the Skirmerhorn. That was the one I was talking about, Haydn's Creation. Yeah, if you're in Nashville, you can come check it out. It's at 4 o'clock on March 5th.
All right. Well, everybody go ahead and check that out. And until next time, keep those halos shiny and stay holy, my friends.
Bye, guys.